Hello my loves, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Esther. If this is your first time seeing this beautiful face, welcome. This is where we talk about history, everything history, African history and the world at large. So today I'll be talking about the role our parents played, that is our ancestors, during the transatlantic slave trade. It is very important for us to understand that a foreigner or a stranger cannot just walk into your house and then start harnessing things, because that person is a stranger. He doesn't know the looks and cranny in your home. So it is the person who has lived with you, it is the person who is from that household that would guide and direct that person to have a successful stay, a successful operation, or whatever the person want to do in that very house. So it is very key for us to understand that the transatlantic slave trade did not just started and became successful. Even before the trans-Saharan slave trade, there were underground slave trade going on in Africa, where kingdoms fight kingdoms, where people try to conquer one another in order to expand their territory, in order to expand and then grow, so that tribute will be paid to them. And then slaves were acquired to serve in palaces, to serve as punishment, and for different reasons. So when the trans-Saharan slave trade came, that was more like an opportunity for them to acquire more wealth and to expand their influence into different territories. And when it transcended to the transatlantic slave trade, we saw how brutal it was. Some of them didn't even have the knowledge about what they were doing. Some of them just did it blindly. But before I go further, let's take a good look at this video so that we'll pick it up from there.
In Cape Coast, Ghana, African scholars argue that Africans themselves played a role in enslaving and selling their fellow Africans, a practice that had existed for centuries prior to European arrival. While European slave traders operated from forts like Cape Coast Castle, where millions of Africans were sold into slavery and transported across the Atlantic, it was primarily African kings, chiefs, and wealthy merchants who captured and sold slaves to the European traders. The growth of the transatlantic slave trade coincided with intertribal warfare in Africa, as captives from these conflicts could be easily sold to European traders in exchange for firearms, which played a decisive role in the expansion of the slave trade.
Facts about slavery that you weren't taught in school. Whilst much is known about slavery in the Americas, little is known about the African kingdoms who enslaved other Africans and grew rich in the process. It has been said the Europeans were junior partners to the Africans, as military weakness and disease made them entirely reliant on native kingdoms. Empires such as the Ashanti Empire and the Kingdom of Dahomey became enormously wealthy and powerful from their selling of slaves. Whilst the African role is largely ignored in the West, it has been addressed by modern Africans. In 1999, the president of Benin, when speaking to an all-black church in Baltimore, fell to his knees and begged for forgiveness for his country's role in slavery. Dahomey's major role in slavery was only ended in 1852 when Britain forced an anti-slavery treaty on them. The Ashanti Empire resisted attempts to abolish slavery, and it wasn't until British colonization that the practice stopped completely.
So my loves, having heard from the video that just played, in my opinion, our ancestors had a vital role they played to see that the transatlantic slave trade was a success. And one of it was that I feel they were ignorant about the whole situation. The Europeans did not portray all that was in it in the slave trade to them. So when they get to understand the main ideology or the main goal behind the slave trade, they try rebelling, but that led to them going on exile. Some were even killed, and so many terrible things happened to some of them. Another role our ancestors played to ensure the success of the transatlantic slave trade was being selfish. You know, the Europeans came with so many flashy things like mirror and the rest. So they wanted all of these things the Europeans brought for themselves. They didn't want another kingdom to acquire some of these things. They didn't want other people to use this weapon for mass destruction and to capture them. So they wanted to amass, to have all of these things, to develop their own community and amass or express themselves and make people know that yes, they are really in charge in this territory. They wanted to be richer because this helps them to know that with this thing this white man is bringing, I will be more richer, and why not acquire this for just a few slaves and that is it. And they exchanged slaves for the riches, the wealth the Europeans brought. Our ancestors felt that they were inferior, and without the help of the foreigners, they could not lead their people. But how true was this? These are people you have been leading, you have been ruling, you have been exercising authority over for decades, for years, before these foreigners came into your land. And all of a sudden, because of their appearance, because of their presence, you felt you were no longer good enough to lead them if you don't get the help of these foreigners. I feel they were brainwashed also. So that gave them an opportunity, and many more things that were told or said to them made them to help in seeing that this slave trade was successful. Because a foreigner cannot come into your home and exercise dominion over your territory without the help of an insider. So our parents, our ancestors played a keen role to see that this slave trade was successful, even though most of them were ignorant, but some of them did it with their full understanding about what they were doing. So my loves, this brings us to the end of today's video. I would love to hear your opinion and your views in the comment section, where we will take it up and continue the discussion from there. If you are not yet subscribed, please hit on that subscribe button, that red button. Yes, that red button. Hit on it and join the growing community, and I would love to see you in my next video.